Today we will be talking about the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, Division Newport, the in-water test facilities. There are 3 in-water test facilities. Guess how many speakers we have? Good job.
Hey.
So we have Ryan Beatley, the branch head and technical program manager for the test facilities, Narragansett Bay Test Facility, Dodge Pond Acoustic Measurement Facility, and the Seneca Lake Sonar Test Facility. And then we have Dillon Fournier, the facility manager for the Narragansett Bay Test Facility. And we have Greg Mastin, the lead engineer at the Seneca Lake Sonar Test Facility. And I will allow them to introduce themselves further.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys' hospitality. Brian, Larry, Airly, John, wherever he is. Yeah, so beautiful campus. Never actually been up here. The facilities, definitely one of a kind. It's
much nicer than URI.
Yeah, well, I commented about it. It's definitely nicer. They need to. URI needs to step up their game for sure. So yeah, a little unorthodox. So I recently been, of course, they teach all these leadership things and whatnot when you get into certain positions within the Navy. But one of the things I recently did was a photo bios, which is a more unique way to really introduce ourselves. And I just found it's a good way to connect with everybody. You can know who I am, where I came from, who these gentlemen are here. So I'll just start real quick. So I'll spare you my childhood, but I graduated from VMI, did a stint in the Navy with the Special Warfare, got out, and then went to Newport News Shipbuilding. So I don't know how the pointer works, but yeah, went to Newport News Shipbuilding, was there for probably 7 years, switched over to oceaneering, did another several years there. Got into some of the oil and gas stuff, which is pretty cool industry to get into if you are interested. I can definitely talk to you about it. A lot of ROV work. They do spacesuits and whatever else. And then which kind of leads me to where I'm at now, managing the Narragansett Bay Test Facility, Dodge Pond, and Seneca Lake. I am a Navy diver. To me, working on a submarine on the hull outside. And I'm currently back at school. I was telling Beatley and company, I started, I think 2019, I've just been doing a class semester, trying to continue my education and get my master's in ocean engineering at URI. So
That's okay.
yeah, I'm a thesis away. So it's tough with a full-time job, but I'm managing. And then the more important part is my family. 2 kids. My daughter, she's in 9th grade. Son's in 6th grade right now, big into soccer, boating, and then actually what I failed to put on here is a picture of my wife. She kind of supports us all. Don't tell her, but and then I got two wonderful dogs. One's 6 pounds and one's about 110. So it's a compare and contrast. It's definitely interesting. So that's a little bit about myself. I'll let Dillon, if you want to introduce yourself, and then go over to Greg.
I think the top button, I think is the here, perhaps.
Yes, okay. That? All
right. Yeah, so hi everyone, Ryan. So I'm Dillon Fournier. I'm the facility manager, Narragansett Bay Test Facility in Newport. I don't have the extensive background that Ryan has, but I've worked at NBTF since 2008. So I've been there a while, and through my career I've had the opportunity to travel, be involved with many different test events that the Navy really has to offer. One of the things I got to do multiple times was Arctic ice exercise in the Arctic Circle, covering torpedoes from under the ice. So I was part of that for 2 events in a row. And as Ryan said, most important part, my family up there, 2 boys playing soccer and baseball, and of course my wife holding it all together.
Excellent.
Yeah. Greg Mastin, I graduated from Clarkson with a bachelor's degree. I was a DoD contractor in Newport, and then went to Newark headquarters in 2009. Went to DC for a stint at one of the program manager's office, and then I met my wife down there. And we were both from New York State, so we moved up and found Seneca Lake, and I'm working there now. So, yeah. Wife Christy, 3 kids. Life is very busy, but yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. So just the reason we're here, so thank you, John, inviting us. John's family friend. So it's I had no idea this was up here. Didn't know Noah was a part of UNH. We actually took some notes. It's an interesting collaboration that you guys have. It's unique for sure. And I would love to try to figure out how the Navy can do the same with some of the universities. But so who we are, the facilities, let me see if I can get this. So this one right here, this is in Narragansett Bay. It's the Narragansett Bay Test Facility, unique name. But what you don't see is the main campus of Newark up above. So all the scientists, engineers, the brainchilds of the Navy, all of their testing funnels down to us where we do the real world in water trial and error and see how they do. On a grander scale, the Navy itself, we're just a pin drop of all the various test facilities that the Navy has. There's a lot of T&E ranges, test and evaluation all over the country, Hawaii, off the Florida coast. And then we're more or less R&D, research and development test facilities, separate from the T&E ranges. We get into the whole money and how things work, but being separate from the T&E side, all of our money comes from sponsors, similar to probably the way it works here, ONR, DARPA, whoever is funding the projects that go into the water. We also have a facility, Dodge Pond Acoustic Measurement Facility. This is in Niantic, Connecticut, and it's a barge similar to the lake. We'll get in more in the details of each one in the actual slides. And then Seneca Lake, that's a picture of the barge moored out into the center of the lake. So that's who we are. So these are the locations. Greg did a great job. We had your logo up here, so that's where we are now, but it didn't come through. MBTF, Narragansett Bay, Dodge Pond is in Niantic, Connecticut, and 400 miles away from MBTF, almost to the T, is Seneca Lake in Dresden, New York. So a little about what we do. I know these guys are going to go into more of the details of the facilities, but a whole variety of testing at all of them. Unmanned, underwater vehicles. We do unmanned surface vehicles at MBTF, aerial vehicles, electronic warfare, pretty much the whole gambit for the Navy. Dodge Pond is more specific to acoustic testing, but we do have some off-the-wall testing, such as airborne noise of outboards. We do some other, we've had a test with the sealed delivery vehicles. So we've done some testing other than just, hydrophones and arrays. And then Seneca is kind of a blend of both of Dodge and MBTF, really purpose-built for heavy lift acoustic testing, but they also do everything that MBTF does as well, unmanned underwater vehicles, and like I said, the whole works. Just a little bit about what we do, and I'm going to kick it over to Dillon to talk about Narragansett Bay Test Facility.
Thank you. So the Narragansett Bay Test Facility located in Newport. We're a test and evaluation facility with an in-water test range that supports research and development, engineering and analysts of underwater, surface and aerial vehicles, related technologies in a realistic operational environment. So what that all means for the Navy and for academia alike is our facility location being right on the waterfront. With our capabilities, we're able to push projects out the door, get them in the water, testing in a real world environment. Right now, the Navy has a big push for rapid prototyping. So with that, we can get vehicles out into the water for testing. If something is not working right, they can get back in the lab, fix whatever's going wrong and back in the water rapidly. That's really what we kind of pride ourselves on is being able to support the rapid innovation and rapid prototyping structure. So who we work with, Ryan kind of touched on that. But we work with DARPA, O&R, private industry. We've done a lot of projects and work for Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Huntington Ingalls. Most recently, Dive Technologies and L3 Harris as well. Academia, we've done some work with URI, Johns Hopkins, and Penn State, and hopefully we can do some work with UNH here in the near future. Not to go into too much detail about our rates, but MBTF, we're a service cost center within the Navy, so we're essentially run like our own small business. So we have our services do come with a fee. So we are comparable with industry. We've done some market research to try to make sure that we're competitive and we can support projects just as well as private industry. So a little map of the main campus here in our location in Newport. You can see the little facility down there inside the break wall. One nice thing about MBTF is we do have sheltered piers. We do a lot of shallow water testing right in between our two piers there. If I can get this to work. But yeah, accessing MBTF, it is a Navy facility, so we do have access controls in place. We're here to help, walk all visitors through that process. Starts with a visit request, which goes through our security department. Get you guys a visitor badge, and we can walk you right onto our facility. So some of the capabilities that we have, heavy lift, jib crane and forklift. We have a 10,000 pound jib crane right at the waterfront. We have classified high bay space that's available for any classified projects. We have an engineering and diving support unit. So we have a Navy dive locker right at our facility on the waterfront, which is super convenient for lost UUVs. They do a lot of underwater engineering work. We'll talk about the EDSU team in a little bit, but they are all engineers, and their collateral duty is their dive work that they do. We have our own boat ramp. We have a lab space that's available, quite a few lab spaces that are available to customers and projects to be able to work on their test equipment. Office space available for transient folks who are coming down to work with us. All kinds of different support equipment that might be required for jobs. We have generators, air compressors. We have a towed side scan sonar system. We don't do a whole lot of mapping, but we use it for lost items. All of our vessels also have side scan on them, but the towed system is a little bit nicer than the hull mounted systems. So we have a fleet of range craft that we use to support all the various in-water projects and testing that we do. Our biggest boat is a 100-foot transporter. That vessel can accommodate overnight operations. Has berthing for, I believe, 9 people. Big open lab space on the main deck. 5,000 pound knuckle boom crane, A-frame. And kind of going down from there is we have 2 35-foot. They were Navy patrol boats that were handed down to us. We've kind of converted the patrol boats into research vessels, so they have over-the-side sonar poles and some davit lifting capability on those 35-foot boats as well. We have a couple of 25-foot boats, and then we go down all the way to jet ski and inflatable rowboats, and our fleet consists of 9 vessels in total. So where we operate, the Navy has cognizance over 2 restricted water space areas. One right in Narragansett Bay, that's a 2-minute boat ride right in the middle of the bay. And then we also have what we call the outer range, another restricted water space area out near Block Island Sound. The inner range has a max depth of 130 feet. The outer range has a max of 120. It's a pretty consistent, flat 120-foot depth out there in Block Island. And as I mentioned, we have the protected shallow water space in between our piers and inside the breakwall area that we use a lot for shallow water testing, small vehicle operations, stuff like that. We're not limited to operating in just those restricted water space areas. And basically what I mean when I say they're restricted for Navy use during the time that we're operating out there, which is nice when we're operating high-speed vehicles or maybe multiple vehicles at one time. We set up a security perimeter in the four corners of a box, keep out recreational and commercial traffic. And those are charted areas on NOAA charts that folks are supposed to keep out of. We're not limited to just operating in those areas. The 100-foot transporter will operate from Maine all the way down to Florida, up and down the East Coast is our coverage area with a 100-foot boat. The smaller boats, the 35s, those are kind of our go-fast boats. We'll run those down to Block Island, Fisher's Island in New York. Mostly those operate inside the bay is really what they're intended for. So how to test with us. So anyone who has a project, an idea, a need to put something in the water and test it, it's relatively simple. With any government agency, of course, there are a list of approvals and
Lots of yellow tape.
yes, for sure. But that's my job. That's what I'm here to help with. I walk basically everyone through that process. Safety approvals, environmental approvals, any other approvals, network, IT, that we need to get done in order to get projects in the water. So leading up to a test event, these are some of the steps that I work with the customer to achieve so we can get that test or project in the water. Yeah, and then I kind of mentioned already the engineering and diving support unit. So, and Ryan is actually a Navy diver. Might be a better place to speak to that.
Sure, yeah. So this is actually one of the best parts of my job. It's get to walk down the stairs and, with any R&D work, things get lost a lot. Things break a lot. So we're pretty much at the ready. We have the dive locker there. We throw our gear on the boat. We go out and we recover whatever it is. On top of that, we do a lot of submarine work, a lot of repairs for towed array handling systems, some other stuff, components that the submarines have. Inspections, measurements, like ship's husbandry. There's a whole slew of work that we can and do. But like I said, it's definitely unique. It's unique to the warfare centers because we're all civilians. So to be able to be a Navy diver and work with the ships and the submarines, it's definitely a unique part of my job.
We also have a contract with a local dive team. They're hard hat divers, underwater construction guys. The Navy divers are limited in some aspects. So for deep water stuff or more construction related stuff, we do have a contract with another dive team for that type of work.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so one other thing is, I know NOAA has a lot of boats. Boats are hard to get. We do have contract capabilities to pretty much get boats, across the globe. We use them. We use the contract many times a year. Some of our other government agencies come to us to say, hey, we need a boat in wherever, Australia, and they'll contact us. We'll use our contract vehicle to go get any, we'll develop statement of work, figure out what our needs are, whether it's heavy lift, ROV, but it's not limited to boats. Our contract we get airplanes, we call it the planes, trains, automobile contract. So it's definitely good. It has a high ceiling. So that's one aspect that potentially we could help with. If there's research that needs to be had and all the boats are tied up, we can't go to commercial industry to hopefully get what folks need to get their testing done.
If we don't have it in our fleet, we can get it.
Just another quick touch on a little bit of the facility. We have there's an acronym for everything in the Navy, as you can tell. Rapid Engineering Experimentation Facility, the REEF. It's something we stood up for that, what Dillon talked about, the rapid innovation cycle. I think right now we have 5 pretty small scale projects that are doing their bench work, developing 3D printed UUVs. We put them in the water. They typically don't work the first time, bring them back in, do it again, just repeat that cycle. So we as a facility, we provide the equipment and everything they need to do exactly that. They just worry about their technology and their project, and we give them everything else to make it happen. I'm just going to talk, thank you, Dillon. I'm just going to talk quickly about Dodge Pond. So Dodge Pond, it's a barge moored in the center of a pond. It's very quiet. So the Navy, I think, acquired it back in the 50s. So it's a very quiet environment. The sound absorbing properties it's 50 foot deep, but the mud seafloor, obviously it's good for acoustic testing. So this is a very small scaled down version of what Greg's going to talk about next. But like I said, it has a moon pool in the middle where we drop hydrophones and do all kinds of acoustic type testing. We don't also have, the only other unique thing we have is a pressure tank where it's a fiberglass tank we can lower, put in the water. Most recent thing we've done is we put a dive helmet on and we were measuring sound, what divers would hear, but we can press that up to about 1,000 PSI. So like I said, another unique attribute of Dodge Pond. Visitor access is just about the same what Dillon talked about. We have foreign visitors, we have academia, all kinds of folks that come. Woods Hole was just there. We were doing some air gun testing with them. Capabilities, touched on it briefly, uniquely quiet. A lot of folks come to us, when they're trying to get those fine-tuned measurements, that they'll use Dodge Pond. How to test, just like MBTF. All facilities are essentially the same. You guys can have this presentation. There are phone numbers in there to call folks, if you want to get on schedules and try to come test with us if needed. All right, so Greg.
Seneca Lake.
Seneca Lake.
So 400 miles away from all of that is a deep lake in Western New York and the Finger Lakes. I'll do a quick background, our mission, who works there. The S&P Systems Measurement Platform, I'll call it the barge. Why we're there, the range depth is a big thing. For data acquisition, some of the other tests we do, and then again, contact info. So Seneca Lake's 37 miles long, it's 3 feet wide where we are. It's 480 feet deep under the barge. Further south down here, it gets around 700 feet deep. We do tests down there. You can bring in big, large units through the Erie Canal system. So like Sonar dome size stuff, 35 feet in diameter. It's relatively protective compared to Great Lakes. It's not quite as Dodge, but it is fairly quiet. And we're 4 degrees C from 200 feet down to the bottom year round. And right now we're just starting to get a little bit of a layer. There's like 2 months of the year that we're isothermal top to bottom. The facility itself, they started in 62, and then our headquarters took over in 69. They bought it outright in 76. The S&P was finished in 73. And yeah, we're an attachment of Newport. Our mission, we touched on this earlier, so like R&D stuff is like latest and greatest technology, and then this T&E is stuff it's ready to go out into the fleet. So this is science, this is how well it doesn't work. So it's a mix. There's 3, about to be 4 government civilians on site, and then we have a complement of 6 contractor staff. And then we also have customers. We normally have 2 groups every week. There's 2 lab spaces. That's for shared testing. You're generally there for a week. We have had tests come in, they'll stay for 3, 4, or 5 weeks. And we operate year round. We're always out there. The SMP itself, the catamaran type structure, it is officially a naval vessel called the IX-310. It's 192 feet long, and there's 2 barges. They're both 35 feet wide. They're connected in the middle by 5,000 feet of lab space. That's where all the labs are, the galley, our office spaces, heads, all that stuff. We're stable position, so we are permanently moored. It's never been out of the water since it was built. It's stayed there since 1969, and it's a 4-point mooring. High power, we have 2.1 megawatts available on the SMP from shore. It's a mile and a half away. Heavy lift, so our big crane is up to 200 tons. And again, that's for the big sonar spheres we're doing for submarines or surface ships. The problem with that crane is it's very slow. So we use all these smaller hydraulic and electric cranes throughout to offload and unload and deploy. So some of the why Seneca Lake, right? Why test in a 480 feet facility? Why is the barge so big? So first thing is range. That we can get almost 300 feet of separation from an array to a hydrophone. And that's important. I'm not going to go too far into this. Somebody stop me if they want a sonar discussion, we can. But it allows far field measurement. So we don't want to measure in here where it's all, distortion. We want planar waves out here. So the further you can separate from that array is better. Same thing with depth, right? So we have 450 feet of usable space. We don't want to catch anything out the bottom. What that does is it pressurizes the transducer more, so there's less cavitation, less water bubbles on the face. But it also allows this reflection-free window. So if I transmit, I get it on my hydrophone here, but I also get a surface return that hits out here. I don't want to measure all this. I want to measure it here to get the truth. Little tour of the space. So there's 2 of these labs. That's kind of a customer area to set up on. And then we each have a little office space in the back. We have big screens, but not as nice as the Biz Lab. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And just basic, hookups for if you have an EV computer, you can use our network, but power. We are synced to GPS, the clock. Another view of the lab, and then this is where I spend a lot of my time in that sonar stack there. It's configurable, so I can change it to be a passive system where it's listening. I can change it to be an active system. I can drive multiple units, DC to 500 kilohertz. Anything to generate, condition, measure any acoustic signal. PC based, we talked through a PXI bus that controls all the units. So 2.1 megawatts of power comes in on 13,000 volts. Then we knock that down through a series of 460 and 208 3-phase transformers. And then we feed that throughout the rest of the barge. And then we dump that power back into the water with these amplifiers. We have on board right now 500 kilowatts available. We don't use it at the same time, obviously. But they are there, they're permanently stationed. We have the capability of bringing in, we do this a lot where somebody will bring in a new amplifier system and we'll put it on board, plug it into our 460 system, and then they're up and running. Other tests, remote monitoring. So we'll set a test to run, say a life endurance test over the weekend. And if something goes wrong, it'll shut down the amplifier, it'll call me, and it'll call Bud, who's the facility manager. We can come see what's going on. A lot more autonomous vehicle stuff. A lot of range ops, so we'll put a boat on station, and he'll just sit there and listen while we ping from the barge. We also have towed. We have done some towed stuff where we put a transducer in a body and tow that around. And then deep water testing, where we want to get that deeper water down south of where we are, is, like I said, almost 700 feet. That's this setup here. We put that test station you saw in this Connex container with an amplifier, a generator, 2 inches, and we'll send the guys down for a day and they'll test if they need deeper water. Those Mike boats, we have 2 of those. They're landing craft, 50-foot dual Detroit. We have 2 of these YC barges, so if somebody brings in a heavy piece of gear on shore, we load it onto the barge, we push it out, and offload it on the SMP. Kind of our run-around boats, we have 3 of these, 24-footers. And then the sister boat to their jet boat, we have serial 1, they have serial number 2. And that's basically moving people back and forth from shore. And then how to get a hold of us, this will be in the slides, but we're in Dresden. Bud's the facility manager. I'm the engineer. And Ryan's our program manager.
So Seneca is definitely a unique facility. The Navy is investing heavily in that facility right now to, like Greg said, it was stood up in '69. I think it was built. Because it's freshwater, we've never had to touch it. We inspected the hull, still has paint on it. So we're investing for the next 50 years. So it's going to be around a while. Like I said, very unique. We do a lot of testing with private industry there and foreign industry as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is, I think the oil and gas industry uses us, because they're obviously trying to search for oil, and what's the best way to try to do that is with sound.
Right.
So we work with them. So a lot of just whole variety of customers that we have out there. So it's not just Navy use. I would say probably 75% is private, non-Navy. So it's definitely open to just about everybody, and that goes for all the facilities. I think there's a misconception that it's a Navy facility and it's hard to get to us, all the yellow tape. Like Dillon said, that's what we're here for, to help facilitate testing with us. They're good facilities. I know you guys have a good facility here, do similar work in your deep water tank. If you need to expand that, we have the capability. So I think that's it. I think that's about it for the presentation. We wanted to, I guess this is kind of what I just went into. But yeah, we just want to help, like the technologies from private industry, academia, like there's cross organizational uses for all of it. Oil and gas, what they do, the Navy's interested in all of that. So it's beneficial for us to collaborate, and that's really why we're here. So a kind of open forum here for questions. If anybody has any questions about all 3 of the facilities, by all means, definitely ask.
First, let us thank you. Okay, now you can ask questions.
Anyway, we can go around. Go ahead.
Now, I'm just curious if in your Newark facility, you didn't mention much about the acoustic test facility you have up there, the hill, the transducer testing and all calibration stuff. And that's a pretty good facility with top drawer stuff. Is that part of your operation?
So that's one thing I haven't talked about is Newark does have, like I said, we're 3 of many facilities, but yeah, absolutely. We've got a deep tank like you guys have that has all the, all the sound absorbing material on the outside. They do all that transducer testing.
So you're referring to USRD, right? Underwater Sound Reference Division.
Yeah, for like transducer testing.
Yeah, so that's right. So we're code 70, they're code 15, which is the sonar testing branch. And then inside that branch, they have USRD, which is the METCAL program for all Navy transducers and hydrophones. Right. So we actually get our hydrophones from them on a lease basis, and they have the traceability on them. And that's what we use to do all of our measurements for private industry, if that makes sense.
I got a long list.
So Larry, and then we'll come back.
Sure. Okay, you talked about you need a contract. I know in the past, when I wanted to work with Navy ranges, I needed to have an existing grant with the Navy. When you say a contract, is that I can just call you up and say, I've got some system here, doesn't matter how it was funded, and we just establish a contract for you, so I don't need to go through an existing ONR grant or?
Correct. Yeah. So there's a couple of ways we can contract. We already have the EPA. It's an educational partnership agreement with UNH. if you're coming from the NOAA side, that's just a pretty simple nipper route for funding and use. The UNH side, so if it's a specific project professor, we can set up a CRADA, cooperative agreement, where we share data. Funding can be transferred on those, it depends on how you write them. But aside from that, we can also do a work for private party, which is typically a 5-year agreement where we can, we're basically here for you, like you're our customer. So yes, we can set any of those avenues will bring you to come test with us.
Couple quick ones.
Yeah, sure. I think the answer is that there's a lot of vehicles, so you don't have to go through a grant, there's a whole.
Okay, because
slew.
that was always a constraint with the other ones. Do you got ice on Seneca Lake?
No, very rarely.
That's a shame.
It froze.
No, because that's a place where we have lots of issues. We go to the Arctic all the time, and we'd love to be able to nicely test in deep water.
Yeah. The
Sometimes
problem is it's such a heat sink that we don't get ice.
Yeah, bummer.
Yep.
And the other question about Seneca Lake, the barge, do people stay overnight on the barge?
No.
So it's a daily, it's a
It's
daily.
monitored 24/7, but we don't stay there. There is cruise berthing, but it's, Brian has, yes. Yes, for security, we can stay overnight, how's that?
Yes, we can't see it.
Yeah.
But it's
can
up
do
the
it.
north. All right, yeah. Great, this is fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Oh, we're gonna jump back and then come to you.
So for Seneca Lake, most of the testing looks to be done on the big H barge. Do you guys ever allow for mooring deployments or acoustic hydrophone arrays off of the barge?
Yes, yep, so what I didn't show is, we have fixed moorings that are 2.5 miles away, line of sight from the S&P.
Okay.
And then that setup I showed you with the 50-foot boat, we can drive that around to the deeper water. But yeah, we deploy anchors all the time. We've actually the test that he stayed on the S&P for, where they were monitoring because we had a barge that was 2,000 yards moored by itself off of the S&P.
Yeah, because we've done some work with the SCORE and AUTEC ranges in the past, but it'd be nice to their hydrophones clip a little.
Yeah, we can definitely set that up for sure. All of our boats are monitored. We have GPS recordings, so we know where they are and relative to each other. They all have VHF radios. You have generators from 2,000 watts up to that big 30 kW.
You don't have dolphins swimming underneath though.
No marine mammals in Seneca, so.
What's their train? Unless you put them in there. Microphones on the dolphin.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned that you also test aircraft like winged. So what do you do about the testing it? Like, what do you test for?
So, because we're the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, so the submarines, it's basically submarine launched. They put the aircraft in a canister. It gets submarine launched. Aircraft goes up, flies around, does a mission, and usually it will scuttle itself. So those are the type of aircraft that we do.
Yeah, we really do. Recently, we've been doing like bake-off between different UAV aircraft companies. So we've been running tests, launching multiple birds from different companies up in the air to see which bird performs better than the other. There's all different criteria that each bird needs to pass. Yeah, we usually land them. We launch and land them when we're testing them right off our pier. We mount a canister to our pier, they shoot out, fly around, then they either land on the pier or sometimes in a net, we catch them.
Another if nobody has. What, Julia? Go ahead.
So it's been here for a long time. Do you guys work with people doing long-term studies of all your sound and environment, or like long-term use performance of the sonars or anything like that? Is that something that's already going on, or?
Long-term studies?
For sonar, no, they're typically just a one, we'll do the tests. We have probably a repository of the data, but no, not as far as study are you referring to the impacts that the sound has to the environment, or?
Either, I'm presuming you get something sort of just been there forever and you can see like degradation of equipment over time and how that kind of things work, or environmental impacts. And I was wondering about the cable giving you electricity, if that's like, that must be a massive cable getting onto the.
It's this big.
Yeah, it's
It's tiny. It's
actually-
13,000 volts, so it's very, very small.
I mean, it's small compared to, it's
Yeah.
big compared to.
Yes, it's big for the household. We're actually
Big
replacing,
compared to like my house, but like
We're-
small compared to like.
so we're putting in temporary moorings this coming year, like in the next like 3 weeks. We're gonna put temporary moorings in to hold the barge in place, run a new cable to the tune of $6 million.
$6.5 million, yeah.
And then the following summer, we're gonna replace the permanent mooring lines and then take the temporaries off. So yeah, there's considerable upkeep. You don't just let it float for 50 years without.
Still 2.5 megawatts or?
2.1 megawatts, yep.
Yeah, so did that answer your question in terms of the long term? The test teams, we don't typically, unless they're doing an endurance type test, we don't typically record, long term. I mean, we've done tests where they put something in, beginning of the year, we'll pull out mid-year, check it mid-year, and then, but nothing like over 50 years, nothing of that nature. Yes, sir.
Okay, get the dollars now. You mentioned that your rates were competitive with the private sector. Are there facilities like this that the private sector runs? I can't think of.
Not Seneca.
Yeah, not Seneca.
Yeah,
So
we just compared our vessel rates.
Oh, for vessels. and things
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
Right, now-
services offered.
Now the question, so I'd say I wanted 3 days at Seneca to test something. What order of magnitude of a rate?
yeah.
Yeah, so shared is 6K a day, so 6,000 a day to share.
6,000 a day.
That's it?
Wow.
Wow, that's good.
That-
I was waiting for stuff to start flying out. Yeah, so shared time is 6,000 a day. If you want it dedicated, if you want the whole barge to yourself with the sound, then you can get the water too, it's 12. Yep, most of it.
Yes, I know. He's spending it already, so.
Jenna had a question.
Yes.
So we joked about porpoises, but I used to collaborate with scientists at the Newark division in Newport, Washington, and his thing was setting out passive arrays or passive sonar to listen for early porpoises, marine life prior to testing. Is there anything like that you have to manage at the Narragansett Bay facilities?
So there is, we have to, there is a marine mammal watch and monitoring program that we have to be trained for, but there's no active monitoring devices or listening devices for that.
There's technology development for that. Padre. So there's things that people are doing to develop those passive technologies. Absolutely, we do test those. But it's been more recent, probably within the past 2 years, that's getting more prevalent as far as passive listening. Yep. Yes.
You mentioned that you could get boats anywhere.
Yep.
So what is the mechanism for that? Is that, so somebody needs a boat, say, I don't know, some random part of the world, they just contact you and you're like, hey, I need this boat. You're like, cool, we have a contract for that.
Yeah, so that, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that,
Yeah, if you go through the NOAA route, that's how we'd be able to use it. Like, we've never used it for private industry. For private industry, I think you would just contact like a Mastin Marine or a company and say, hey, I need to find a boat somewhere. But if you're gonna go through the government route, like if NOAA needed help with
it's
somewhere.
very complicated what you can and cannot do.
So NOAA had an agreement with Newport, right? If that agreement was in place.
Yes, if agreement's in place.
So there
we
does
accept-
have
we
to be an
accept-
agreement in place.
But
That's-
that's very simple. That's a simple. From
You said that.
government to government is pretty easy. We have a lot of them. And then as far as the colors of money, we accept all of it. So on the government side.
One of the things that actually has been a problem in NOAA is paying the Navy. We had like a huge problem with actually giving the Navy money.
Do you know what
which
color?
has been resolved, but it took like a couple of years to figure out the mechanism with which to pay you.
Right.
I think our agreements folks would have that nailed down before we even had the
Yeah.
discussion.
Ideally.
Yeah.
Cool, that's good to know, thank you. Any other questions?
Norfolk potentially coming up to Newport from Norfolk. Your plans having a collaboration with them, or?
We do, yeah,
Hope
that's,
so, yeah.
we're hoping to. Yeah, it's, you know, it's, like I said earlier, I think they're gonna be 1,000 meters to the pier, to the facility. So yeah, we do wanna talk with them to see how we can collaborate. It sounds like they're gonna be developing a bunch of jobs and,
Clear to me how you can collaborate, because their ships are gonna come up there, they're not gonna work. Then we'll need to come to you to contract the vessel to get something done.
yeah, that's absolutely, yeah. But the plan is to, yes.
I mean, I think ideally we could leverage each other's assets. As bigger boats than we do in Newport, so I can see us reaching out definitely for the heavier lift capability, the larger A-frames that the Nova boats typically have. I think, you know, on the other side of the coin, we can probably help out with our smaller vessel fleet. Hopefully sharing of assets will happen.
Are you doing work with the state of Rhode Island in any sense? Because I heard they were trying to create a network of
Blue
tourism
economy,
within the bay.
yeah. Yeah, no, we're definitely talking to the state. I know we've been in a bunch of meetings with NIU, BT. Don't ask me what that stands for, but it's URI, I think UConn. There's a couple other folks that are joining together for the whole blue economy. I know there's a whole network of sensors they want to put throughout Narragansett Bay. And I know we've been part of that. I think they want to build a facility over, URI does, over by Quonset. And what we've told them, the similar NOAA coming is boats are expensive. Don't go buy a bunch of fleet of small boats. I mean, it's a 20-minute ride, use ours, but stand the facility up and just collaborate in that way.
So I don't believe we have any questions on the chat still.
Okay.
Internet world, if you have any questions, type now or forever hold your peace.
Right on time.
Okay, very good. Thank you.